Hey everyone, it's Sarah from Stat Series, and today I'm going to be talking about some of the books that I read in the year of 2018. So let's dive right in. I know the year says 2018, it's 2019, but books. So here's some recommendations, here's some not so good books. Let's dive right in. The first book that I'm going to talk about is an audiobook that I listened to called The Case for Jesus, The Biblical and Historical Evidence for Christ by Brant Petrie. This is a heavily theological, historical, philosophical, religious novel. Like, this is not Christian living, this is theological facts and historical evidence that Brant Petrie has gathered and made for his topic thesis statement, which is that historical evidence does support Jesus existing, and here are the reasons why. And it's like sitting in a classroom lecture, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I enjoyed it. Historically, it's fun to listen to, compare like philosophical musings as well as historical documentations of like past philosophers that we like really admire, whose letters say like, yeah, there's this guy named Jesus in Greece and he's doing what people claim that he did. So he existed. Now here's your chance to take the opportunity to say whether he was the Messiah or not. This is the case that he's presenting. So it's interesting. I definitely recommend it if you're interested in theological arguments, historical arguments, or anything of the sort. It's interesting. It's definitely one that I want to reread because I don't feel like I got everything soaked into my head. So yeah, it's definitely one of those books that I'll have to like revisit over and over again, just so I can get all of the information. Then the next book I read was the first book that we finished for my Brit Lit class. We finished Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This was my first time reading Frankenstein. Look at how gorgeous these Barnes & Noble paperback editions are. Like, oh my god, I love them. I got this for like $5. Steal. So yeah, Frankenstein follows the story of Dr. Frankenstein, because let's be real, is this guy really a doctor? Did he actually get a degree in anything, or is he just calling himself a doctor? This is the question that we were discussing in my class, because we were like, does this guy actually have a degree? Because it doesn't sound like he actually like showed up to any of his classes. Like, I'm pretty sure he ditched everything at some point. So like, does he have a degree? Probably not. He's a doctor, which continues to elaborate the unreliableness of Frankenstein's narrative. So yeah, we're recounting a story within a story. So this man, he is in this expedition and he encounters Frankenstein as well as the monster, but the monster like continues through the snow, and Frankenstein and him become friends, and Frankenstein's like, hey dude, like, I'm crazy and I need to kill this monster because he destroyed everything that I love, but I swear to you I'm a good human being. Let me tell you though why I was broken by this monster. And so this man who's listening to Frankenstein recount the tale is writing a letter to his like sister about this man, Frankenstein. So it's like very filtered information. So you should take everything that Frankenstein says with a grain of salt. Yeah, but Mary Shelley is groundbreaking. She wrote a horror sci-fi novel at a time when women weren't even writing novels. Her mother was a famous writer who was not well loved because she was feminist, and her father was also a famous writer. And she tackles a lot of really weird subjects in the Gothic literature. I give Frankenstein 4 stars. I gave Dracula the same rating. In theory, I'm always really excited about Gothic literature, but when I'm reading it, I'm like, this is so dense. Like, the information is captivating. Oh, one of my pages is bent. The information is captivating. The themes are so tangible and fun to move through and discuss, but the novel itself can be a bit of a slog. But I do enjoy Frankenstein. I do think that this may be a classic I revisit in the future. I don't know. There's something about it. Like, the more I think about it, the more I enjoy the novel itself. But reading it, gosh, it took me like an hour to read 30 pages because I annotate, and so I'm writing in the margins, and I'm trying to like think while I'm reading, and it's just too much because I wanted to fly through it. And this is not one to be flown through. This is one to divulge yourself in and immerse yourself and just let yourself be pulled into the twisted neuroses of Frankenstein and the quite tragic tale of his monster, who, it's interesting, you know, like, the subtitle for this is called A Modern Day Prometheus, and so, like, essentially, we know that Frankenstein wants to be a god, and he wants to, I guess in a weird way, love his monster, but he can't do that because men are not meant to create false beings, and it's obvious that it's a hot moral debate. So moral, and then the science here is like, so like, this is a sci-fi, but is there really any science here? Because it's all pretty just like glossed over, which is another thing we talked about in my class. So yeah, it's interesting. I think it deserves all the merit and acclaim that it has gotten and garnered because it's Frankenstein, written by a woman who was not believed to have written it. So yeah, don't rain on Mary Shelley's parade, y'all. She deserves the acclaim. The next book we read for my Brit Lit class was Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. Margaret Atwood redeemed herself for me. I love The Handmaid's Tale. I abhor The Heart Goes Last, and I absolutely love Oryx and Crake. I gave this 5 stars. We follow Snowman, who lives in a post-apocalyptic world where there are large creatures walking around who are genetically modified, spliced together from other creatures. So there's like a skunk. Is that it? So it's like a mix between a rat and a skunk. There's other creatures like that because Jimmy worked in a facility where they were genetically splicing things before the end of the world. And Jimmy is Snowman, and we follow Snowman as he recounts his narrative as Jimmy. And we also follow Snowman's interactions with the children of Crake. We found out who Crake is, who Oryx is, what did they have to do at the end of the world, what happened. This is a satire. It's over the top. It's beautiful. The writing is complex, immersive, horrifying, and fantastic. And I don't know. I loved Oryx and Crake. I love the process of reading it. And then when we find out what really happened, why the world ended, what a showstopper, what a jaw dropper. And then my jaw continued to drop as Jimmy faces off with Oryx, who is his best friend, and we are just in the midst of the battle. And y'all, this gets dark. Like, these people are really morally complex. It's also kind of a Frankenstein retelling, so if you like read this, it's interesting to read this because a lot of the topics of creation and men intervening in God's plan are discussed. So like, these seem to be really interesting topics in British literary fiction and fiction in general, like even Black Mirror, hello. So yeah, I eat it up. I eat it up, and I enjoy it, and I can't recommend this enough. This is fun to read if, like, you want to read them alongside each other, because great comparisons, but Oryx and Crake, man, phenomenal. The next book that I read was a reread. It is Between Shades of Grey by Rita Sepetys. This is my sister's really old beat up and well loved copy. I listened to this on audiobook. I immersed myself into the story. It follows Lena, who is a victim of the Soviet Union's upheaval of the Lithuanian peoples into the Siberias to work as workers in their worker camps. Fantastic. I don't want to say anything about it because I feel like this is such a beautiful story and you should just go into it, not know what to expect, because it's a historical fiction novel based on the Lithuanian people, and I love Rita Sepetys' writing, love the narration for the audiobook, so that's also a great medium. Yeah, it's fantastic. So I read some great books. I gave 5 stars to The Case for Jesus. I gave 5 stars to Oryx and Crake and Between Shades of Grey, and I do recommend Frankenstein. So like, this is like really just a great recommendations video. So yeah, let me know down below in the comments if you've read any of these books. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye and happy reading!